We're enjoying it.
I wish I could say the same. Let's start over here. We've got one question over here. Step on up to the mic and please speak loudly, if you will.
Hello, Mr. Lee. My question is, you have made a lot of excellent cameos in some great films based on your work. And I just wanted to know if in all those cameos that some of the other great Hollywood actors were some of your big fanboys and had ever asked you for your autograph.
I could only make out about 1/3 of that. Could you summarize it?
When you share your cameos, were any of the actors, if they kind of dropped their egos for a minute and admit how much of a fan they were of you?
Well, I'd like to say that they all gathered around me and sang tribute songs. But actually, they're very nice, all of them, and we've become friendly. Robert Downey Jr. is the first time I met him, he bowed down. I'll tell you a funny thing about these guys, though. Very often, they'll ask me to have lunch with them if they're in Beverly Hills, where our office is. And I'll bring them to a restaurant that I know. And I remember I walked in with Robert Downey Jr., actually, a few months ago. And all the waiters recognized him. Well, you can imagine how they treat me from now on at that restaurant. And I walked in with Chris, who plays Thor, and I walked in with Webb, the director of Mark Webb. Yeah, I'm no good at names. But these guys think I'm some big, powerful movie personality, and naturally I try not to dissuade them. The only bad thing about it, I have to leave an extra big tip, or they think that son of a bitch, whatever. He's a bitch. Costs you a lot of money to be a celebrity.
We have one on this side. Let's go over here.
My name's Grace. I'm a big fan, but my question is, if you had the opportunity to hang out with one of your characters, who would it be and what would you do?
I heard "if I," and that was all I got.
If you could hang out with one of the characters that you helped create, which one would it be and what would you do?
One of the girls. I don't know, whoever's the prettiest girl. I used to always show the artist pictures of my wife and say, make them look like her. Then I was safe and I knew it would be a gorgeous girl.
Is she in the audience? Or are you sucking up?
I wish she were. If she was in the audience, I'd be with her somewhere and I wouldn't even have time for this.
Go right over here.
How can you, as blackness, how can you actually point to somebody? Does it look different where you are?
Yes, I have superpowers. You gave them to me. Right over here.
Yes, Mr. Lee, I was wondering how you feel about your characters being portrayed on the big screen. Do you think the actors are doing an adequate job?
How do you feel about how do you feel about the characters that you created being portrayed on the big screen? Do you feel the actors are doing an accurate job?
Oh man, the fact that these characters are on the big screen and are so successful is the greatest thing that could have happened to me. The director, the screenwriter, the actors do all the work, and I end up getting a lot of the credit, and all I do is a lousy little cameo. Couldn't be a better deal.
Right over here. First off, I just want to say thank you. Thank you on behalf of all the fans everywhere. You've created an amazing world that's gotten us through all kinds of great times and bad times. So thank you very much for everything you've created. Basically, I just said thank you.
Oh, okay.
You are.
Oh, okay.
Whoever you are, wherever you are very welcome.
I was just wondering if you could have any superpower of yourself. You created all these heroes with all these amazing superpowers. What superpower would Stan Lee want to have?
What superpower would Stan Lee want?
I would want luck. Because if you're lucky, everything else follows through. You like that girl, you want a date? Hey, you're lucky, you'll get the date. A job open, you want the job, you're lucky, you'll get the job. See what I mean? Whatever you want, you're lucky. So forget all these other nonsensical things. Even if you're strong, somebody will be stronger. If you're fast, you can still fall in a ditch and hurt yourself. But if you're lucky, everything goes right for you. But don't go taking that from me. I get first dibs on luck.
Right over here.
Yes, I was just wondering, with all the villains you've created, which one was your favorite and why?
That's a good question. With all the villains you've created, which villain was your favorite and why?
Well, I think maybe Dr. Doom. I like the sound of the name, Dr. Doom. And also, he was the king of his own country, Latveria. By the way, I'm very proud of Latveria. I made that name up. And you can't tell me it doesn't sound like a real country. There are people who tell me they looked it up on the map. They're so convinced there is a Latveria. But another thing I like about Doc, he's king of his country, so if he comes here to America, if he does something bad, he can't get arrested. He's got diplomatic immunity. How many other villains can say that?
You know a great restaurant in Latveria?
See, you think there's a country.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize there's a center line. I can't see anything either, so I'm sorry. Right here.
Good evening, Mr. Lee. Thank you. I have a very silly question.
I'll give you a silly answer.
I'm from New York, and a lot of us in New York have wondered, because we haven't been able to be clear on it. Is Spider-Man a Yankees fan or a Mets fan?
Is Spider-Man a Yankees fan or a Mets fan, since he's from New York?
I'd love to be able to answer that, but as many times as I've had meetings with him, we've never discussed that subject. He's always worried about Doc Ock and the vulture and the lizard. We never have time to talk about sports. But if I have to give an answer, I think he'd be a Yankee fan. Because I am.
I feel happy you really like that answer. All right, just to catch up a little bit, we'll take one more from the center.
Are we falling behind?
Well, no, because we were missing the center. I didn't know there was 3 lines. Go ahead.
Mr. Lee, I've been a fan of Spider-Man ever. My question for you is, since it's in his inception in '62, what do you think about his progress, growth to nowadays? You know,
Since Spider-Man's inception in 1962, what do you think about the progress, growth of the character to present day?
Oh, I think it's been wonderful. He's probably become one of the most famous superheroes. He's right up there with Superman and Batman, and they started way ahead of him. Maybe he's even more famous, I don't know. But I know every Halloween, and you check it out when Halloween comes around soon, they sell more Spider-Man costumes for kids than anything else. We've been very lucky. Spider-Man has turned into a whole industry, really. I mean, young kids like him, grown-ups like him. People come over to me, men, and they say, Stan, I just want to thank you for Spider-Man. He made my childhood happy. I think, why did you know him? But anyway, they say that. So I would have to say, I think I'm good. I forget the question, but if it was how do I feel about Spider-Man's progress, I'm very happy about it.
thank you very much.
All right, let's go right over here.
Alright, this is a pretty vague question, I guess, but as the amazing artist you are, to any, I guess, artists, other people, like your fans and stuff, if they're like not very motivated with their art, what do you suggest?
What sort of suggestions do you have of motivation for aspiring artists?
Wow. You know, that's tougher than it sounds. You've got to, if you're talking about a comic book artist, that I assume you are, you've got to be able to have good visual taste and be able to judge artwork. Now, the reason for that is, if you want to be a comic strip artist, you've got to know if your drawings are as good or better than the artists who are already appearing in comic books. Because it's very logical. Marvel and the other companies, they have very fine artists doing their strips. Now, if they want to hire a new artist, that guy has to be better than whomever they're using, or at least as good if they don't have enough artists. But if your work isn't as good as what's out there, you've got to keep practicing and practicing until it is. And that's why I say you've got to have a good eye. So many people who want to do artwork, they tend to fool themselves a little. They draw something, it looks kind of nice, and they say, oh wow, this is great, they'll love it. But it may not really be as good as what's being done. So the most important thing, you've got to be a good critic of your own work. And when you feel that your artwork is as good as they're using in the books now, or hopefully even a little better, then you go and send it to the art director, and he'll probably respond very enthusiastically, because they're always looking for new artists, good artists.
Good answer.
It's the most serious I've ever been.
There was no joke in there anywhere. That was great. Let's go
Oh,
to Stan.
yeah.
And Jacob.
Hi, Stan. I was wondering, out of all the Marvel characters you've ever created, which one do you think's changed the most over the years?
Out of all the Marvel characters that you've created, which one do you think has changed the most over the years?
Well, they've all changed a lot. I found out the other day that there's now a red Hulk and a blue Hulk. I'll be honest with you, I don't have time to read the comics. And believe it or not, I do not read the comics. And I haven't for a few years, so I don't even know what's going on. I look at the covers sometimes, the Marvel covers. Not that the others aren't good, but again, I don't have time. At Marvel, they send me the books all the time. So I try to glance through the covers, and I gotta tell you, I think the covers are fantastic. Some of them look like fine art, the type of things that would hang in a museum, or they look like great advertisements the way they're laid out. But other than that, I can't really tell you about what's happening with the characters.
Sorry. Right here.
I have a question about the new Avengers movie. Are they going to have more Avengers?
Are there going to be more Avengers movies?
No.
Are you kidding?
Like more Avengers, like in the movie.
Oh, more Avengers in the movie. Yeah, you addressed that earlier.
Yeah, there'll be.
Which one?
Well, of course, the Black Widow and Hawkeye, but they're adding a few more. I forget which they are now. But every time they have a character they want to promote, they'll put him in the Avengers or her in the Avengers, so that you get a whip of them and you get used to them, and then eventually they'll all get their own movies. They have such a slate of production scheduled, you wouldn't believe it. They're even working on an Ant-Man movie. And of course, the Doctor Strange, Black Panther, and Inhumans, on and on. Submariner.
Yeah. Finally, it's about time. Right over here.
Okay, first off, I'd like to say it is an honor to ask you a question.
Thank you.
Out of all the characters that you've created, is there one that got so popular that you were a little bit surprised by it?
Oh, that's a good question. Out of all the characters that you worked on, was there one that got more popular than you expected it to get? Like maybe there was just a real phenomenon and you weren't...
Well, I'll answer that, but I think you were very tactless. I heard you say, that's a good question. Now, does that imply that the other questions have not been good?
Not at all.
So what was the question again?
Out of all the characters, I love doing this. This is so great. Out of all the characters that you helped create, was there one that became more popular than you expected it to get? Like, was there one that was just a phenomenon that you didn't think, I didn't think that one would catch on?
Honestly, no.
So you knew they would all be hits?
No, I didn't know they'd all be hits. Every time we did a new book, every time I came up with a new idea and I gave it to Jack or Steve or Gene or Bill Everett or whoever I gave it to, or Don Heck, I hoped it would sell well. And when they did sell well, I was delighted. But I don't think any of them surprised me more than the other. Frankly, I'm my biggest fan. I thought they were all good. Even Sergeant Fury. And didn't we do Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a book? Yeah, I love that also. No, I loved everything. I was never surprised.
Yeah. So you knew. That's great. Okay. Right over here. Sign of a good creator. You know it's going to be good. Yeah. Right over here.
How many ladies in costume have flashed you? I just feel like that happens to you all the time.
I'm not going to say this is a good question. I'll leave that up to you. How many ladies in costume have flashed you? You tell me. Is that a good question?
Well, it got a lot of laughs, so I'd say it's a great question. I love hearing laughs. If by flash
I was thinking that.
you mean they somehow took off part of their costume to reveal parts of their anatomy, that has not happened to me.
So there are 2 more days of the show. Family show.
I'm not going. I'm not doing that.
Which is a hell of a surprise, men and women. At every convention, it happens at least a few times. And would I sign my name on their arm or leg or any part of the body so that they could have it tattooed? So with some of them, requesting the signature is the closest thing to what you said, which I'm not going to mention, because like you said, we may have some young children in the audience.
Okay, so you didn't sign any boobs. No, I'm just kidding. You go right here.
We might have an audience of nothing but young children. I can't see.
Right here.
So obviously, through your career, you've been a huge success, and there's been a lot of momentum, especially in the last 10 years with comic books in general. Is there one moment, and maybe there's many, other than being here with us today, that is a defining moment where you said, this has made everything worth it for me?
Okay, so you've had a lot of success through the years, but out of everything that's happened, was there one moment that was for you a defining moment that you felt like this made everything worth it?
No. No, I'm very serious. I just kept going along doing what I did, and the book started selling well, and I was happy. I was too busy to think about defining moments. There was so much to do all the time. There still is. Every moment was a defining moment, in a sense. But in all honesty, I can't think of any one time when I said, wow, I never expected this. This is great. Anything that was great, I always expected. Hell, I was doing it.
The correct answer was this Q&A. So, right over here.
He rates my answers.
I was wondering, why did Gwen Stacy have to die?
Why did Gwen Stacy have to die?
Oh, her name is Gwen?
I did not kill her. I had already killed her father, Captain Stacy, in what I thought was a tremendously dramatic story. After that, I forget exactly what happened, but I think I became publisher, and I had to travel around a lot for Marvel. I didn't write any more stories, and I was promoting the books and going to conventions and things like that. And the next thing I knew, I heard that Jerry Conway had killed Gwen. He was the writer. And I thought to myself, it'll look as if we had a vendetta against that family. I did not kill her. I did not particularly want to kill her. I thought it was really interesting that Peter would have this rather sweet blonde as a girl that he loved, and then he would meet Mary Jane, who had much more of a zippy personality, and he'd fall for her too. And I figured I'd figure out a way to settle that someday when I came back. But Jerry settled it for me, and that was it.
Your Honor. Right over here.
Have you had trauma?
Oh, have you had shawarma? Shawarma, that's what the Avengers were eating at the end of the movie. Have you ever had shawarma?
I don't even know what it is. But speaking about eating, the cameo that I did for the Avengers, I had done another one. I don't know if you know about this. I did one earlier. I thought of it because she said something about eating. Because I was in a restaurant eating, and Steve Rogers, this was the cameo, Steve Rogers was at the next table to me, and an attractive blonde girl kept bringing him his food. And Steve obviously liked the girl, but was too shy to say anything to her. And I'm sitting at the next table eating, kind of watching Steve, and at one point, this is my cameo, at one point I leaned over and said, "Talk to her, you moron, what's the matter with you?" And that line was given to me by the director. And I said it magnificently, as you would expect. And he said to me, "Stan, would you mind trying it again without wearing your glasses, because the glass is causing a glare because the light is here and the camera's here," one of those technical things. So I said it again without my glasses, equally beautifully I said it. And then I found out they couldn't use it because it didn't look enough like me without my glasses. So we ended up doing the cameo that I did do. But now you know something the general public does not know. You know the original cameo that was intended for that movie. I am so generous.
Hey, yeah, let Jason hear. I'll tell him so we can hear Cameron. Okay.
It's a very heartwarming scene. I wish it had been a movie.
Let me call him.
Stan, it's an honor and pleasure to talk to you. My girlfriend and I drove 8 hours to come see you. My question is this: when you're not inspiring people and changing people's lives, what do you and your wife like to do in your free time?
Okay, first of all, he wanted to thank you that you drove 8 hours to be here.
You're very welcome. You drove 8 hours?
You drove 8 hours to be here.
Well, thank you.
And he wants to know what you and your wife do in your spare time when you're not working. Kind of personal.
Are there young people in the audience? Now, my wife is really my best friend. I love talking to her, kidding around with her. We never talk business. And we just have a lot of fun together. And I don't know anything particular, but my only problem is I don't see enough of her because I'm traveling a lot and I'm at the office a lot. So whenever I see her, it's a real treat.
It's Stanley talking live.
I just love her company.
Sweet.
Thank you, company lovers.
He's going to say something again.
Hi, Stan. It's an honor to be here. Spider-Man, the original movie, is one of my favorite
Jacob's going to ask a question.
And I gotta ask, what's it like being married to the same woman since 1947?
What's it like being married to the same woman since 1947?
Wonderful. I mean, if you pick the right woman, I'm very lucky. I found the right woman, and it's been great. I don't know what else to say. See, she's also my best friend. So she's not only beautiful and sexy, but she's my best friend. You can't do better than that.
Amen. Okay, guys, I'm being given the wrap-up sign, so let's just do one more quick one right over here, and then you guys have a chance to do photo ops and autographs and things like that. We want to try to get through as many people today as we can. So right here, sir, you have the honor of the last question.
Nice to meet you, Stan. It's my first time ever to a con. It's really nice to talk to you. My last question is, there has been many, many superheroes out there throughout the years. Has there ever been one that you said, ooh, I wish I thought of that?
Has there ever been a superhero that you thought to yourself, I wish I thought of that?
Yeah, there's one that DC has. Lobo. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I kind of get a kick out of Lobo. I didn't think of it. But that's about it. I don't go around wishing I had thought of things. I like to just think of my own things.
Yeah. So we're going to see you next in Iron Man 3 and hopefully in all those other great Marvel movies. And I know you're always working. You've got stuff coming out. You've got Stan's Rants. You've got World of Heroes. You can find Stan on Twitter, The Real Stan Lee on Twitter. And you can find him at the Dallas Comic-Con Fan Days, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a big hand.